Sarah's trip to the local library. Sarah is a young woman who lives in a small town called Maplewood. She is 22 years old and loves to read books. Sarah lives with her parents and her little sister, Emily, who is 10 years old. They have a cozy house with a beautiful garden full of flowers. One sunny morning, Sarah wakes up to the sound of birds singing outside her window. The sun is shining brightly, and the sky is a clear blue. She stretches her arms and takes a deep breath. Today is a perfect day to visit the library, she thinks to herself. Sarah gets out of bed and walks to the bathroom. She washes her face and brushes her teeth. The cool water feels refreshing on her skin. She looks in the mirror and smiles. "Good morning, Sarah," she says to herself. She brushes her long brown hair and decides to wear it in a ponytail. She goes back to her room to get dressed. She chooses a light blue dress with small white flowers on it. She also puts on her comfortable sandals. Sarah goes downstairs to the kitchen. Her mother is there, making breakfast. "Good morning, Mom," Sarah says cheerfully. "Good morning, Sarah." Her mother replies with a smile. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes, I did. The weather is so nice today," Sarah says. Her mother places a plate of pancakes on the table. "Would you like some pancakes?" her mother asks. "Yes, please," Sarah replies. Her little sister Emily comes into the kitchen, still in her pajamas. "Good morning," Emily says with a yawn. "Good morning, sleepyhead," Sarah teases. Emily sits at the table and pours some syrup on her pancakes. "What are you going to do today, Sarah?" Emily asks. "I'm going to the library," Sarah says. "Do you want to come with me?" Emily thinks for a moment. "I have a piano lesson this afternoon," Emily says. "Maybe next time." "All right," Sarah says. Their father enters the kitchen, carrying a newspaper. "Good morning, everyone," he says. "Good morning, Dad," Sarah and Emily reply. They all sit together and enjoy their breakfast. The pancakes are warm and fluffy. After breakfast, Sarah helps her mother wash the dishes. "Do you need anything from the store, Mom?" Sarah asks. "No, I think we have everything we need," her mother replies. "Thank you for asking." Sarah goes back to her room to get her bag. She puts her wallet, a notebook, and a pen inside. "I'm off to the library now," she tells her family. "Have a great time," her father says. "Bring me a book about animals," Emily calls out. "Sure thing," Sarah replies with a laugh. Sarah steps outside and feels the warm sunshine on her face. The flowers in the garden are in full bloom, and the air smells sweet. She decides to walk to the library since it's such a nice day. The library is about a 20-minute walk from her house. As she walks, she enjoys the sights of her town. She passes by the park where children are playing on swings and slides. Dogs are running around and people are having picnics. Sarah waves to Mrs. Thompson, an elderly lady who is walking her dog. "Good morning, Mrs. Thompson," Sarah says. "Good morning, dear," Mrs. Thompson replies. "How are you today?" "I'm wonderful, thank you." "And you?" Sarah asks. "I'm just fine." "Enjoy your day," Mrs. Thompson says. "Thank you, you too," Sarah replies. She continues walking and passes by a small bakery. The smell of fresh bread and pastries fills the air. "Maybe I'll stop by on my way back," she thinks. Sarah reaches the town square, where there's a fountain surrounded by benches. People are sitting and chatting, enjoying the beautiful day. She finally arrives at the Maplewood Public Library. The building is old but well kept, with large wooden doors and tall windows. Sarah opens the door and steps inside. The library is quiet and cool. The scent of books and polished wood fills the air. "Good morning, Sarah," says Mrs. Green, the librarian. She is a kind woman with glasses and gray hair. "Good morning, Mrs. Green," Sarah replies. "How are you?" "I'm doing well, thank you." "What brings you to the library today?" Mrs. Green asks. "I'm looking for some new books to read," Sarah says. "Also, Emily asked me to find her a book about animals." "Well, you've come to the right place," Mrs. Green says with a smile. "Let me know if you need any help." "Thank you, I will," Sarah says. Sarah walks to the fiction section. She loves novels, especially mysteries and adventures. She runs her fingers along the spines of the books, reading the titles. She picks up a book called The Secret Garden and reads the back cover. "This sounds interesting," she thinks. She adds it to her basket. Next, she moves to the mystery section. She finds a book called The Hidden Staircase and decides to borrow it as well. Sarah then remembers her promise to Emily. "I need to find a book about animals," she says to herself. She goes to the children's section and looks for books about animals. She finds one called Amazing Animals Around the World with colorful pictures. Emily will love this, she thinks. As she is browsing, she notices a flyer on the bulletin board. "Poetry reading event this Saturday at 2 p.m. It says. Sarah enjoys poetry. "I should come to this event," she thinks. She takes a picture of the flyer with her phone to remember the details. Sarah continues exploring the library. She finds a comfortable chair by the window and sits down. She opens one of the books she picked and starts reading. Time passes quickly as she gets lost in the story. After a while, she looks at her watch. "Oh, it's already noon," she exclaims softly. Her stomach growls, reminding her that it's lunchtime. Sarah decides to check out the books and head home. She takes the books to the front desk. "Did you find everything you were looking for?" Mrs. Green asks. "Yes, I did. Thank you," Sarah replies. Mrs. Green scans the books and hands them back to Sarah. "These are due back in 2 weeks," Mrs. Green says. "Enjoy your reading." "I will. Have a great day," Sarah says. "You too, dear," Mrs. Green replies. As Sarah leaves the library, she feels happy and content. She remembers the bakery she went to earlier and decides to stop there for a treat. She walks back to the bakery, and the smell of fresh bread makes her mouth water. Inside, she sees a variety of pastries, cakes, and bread. "Hello, Sarah," says Mr. Baker, the owner. "What can I get for you today?" "Hi, Mr. Baker. Everything looks so good," she says. "I think I'll have a blueberry muffin." "Excellent choice," he says, wrapping the muffin in a paper bag. "Would you like anything else?" "Yes, I'll take a loaf of whole wheat bread, please," she says. "Come right up," he replies. He places the bread and muffin on the counter. "That will be $5, he says. Sarah pays and thanks him. "Have a wonderful day, Sarah," Mr. Baker says. "Thank you, you too," she replies. She leaves the bakery and continues her walk home. As she walks, she eats the blueberry muffin. It's sweet and delicious. She passes by the park again and decides to sit on a bench for a moment. She watches the children play and listens to the birds singing. "This is such a lovely day," she thinks. After resting, she gets up and heads home. When she arrives, Emily runs to greet her. "You're back," Emily says excitedly. "Did you get me a book?" "Yes, I did," Sarah says, handing her the animal book. "Wow, thank you so much," Emily exclaims. She flips through the pages, looking at the pictures. There's a lot of information about different animals, Sarah says. I think you'll enjoy it. I can't wait to read it, Emily says. Their mother comes into the room. Welcome back, Sarah, she says. Did you have a good time at the library? Yes, I did. I found some great books, Sarah replies. I see you stopped by the bakery, her mother says, noticing the loaf of bread. Yes, I thought we could have some with dinner, Sarah says. That's wonderful. Thank you, her mother says. Sarah goes to the kitchen to put the bread away. Would you like some lunch? Her mother asks. Yes, I'm a bit hungry, Sarah says. I made some vegetable soup, her mother says. That sounds perfect, Sarah replies. They sit down at the kitchen table. The warm soup is comforting and tastes delicious. After lunch, Sarah helps her mother wash the dishes. What are your plans for the rest of the day? Her mother asks. I think I'll read one of my new books, Sarah says. Also, I saw a flyer for a poetry reading at the library this Saturday. I'd like to go. That sounds interesting, her mother says. Maybe we can all go together. That would be nice, Sarah says. She goes to the living room and sits on the sofa. She opens The Secret Garden and begins to read. Emily joins her, carrying her animal book. Can I sit with you? Emily asks. Of course, Sarah replies. They sit together, each absorbed in their own book. Occasionally, Emily shows Sarah a picture of an animal. Look at this panda, Emily says. It's so cute, Sarah replies. They spend the afternoon reading quietly. Later, their father comes home from work. Hello, everyone, he says cheerfully. Hi, Dad. Sarah and Emily reply. What are my girls up to? He asks. We're reading, Emily says proudly. Sarah got me this book about animals. That's great, he says. Learning is important. He goes to the kitchen to talk to their mother. Sarah continues reading, completely engrossed in the story. As the sun starts to set, their mother calls them for dinner. Time to eat, she says. They all gather around the dining table. Their mother had prepared roasted chicken, vegetables, and the bread Sarah bought. This looks delicious, their father says. Thank you, their mother replies. They begin eating, and the conversation flows easily. How was your day, Sarah? Her father asks. It was wonderful. I went to the library and found some great books, she says. She also got me a book about animals, Emily adds. That's very kind of you, he says to Sarah. Did you know there's a poetry reading at the library this Saturday? Sarah asks. No, I didn't, her father replies. I thought we could go as a family, she suggests. That sounds like a lovely idea, her mother says. Yes, let's plan on it, her father agrees. After dinner, they clear the table and wash the dishes together. Would anyone like to watch a movie? Their father asks. Yes, Emily says excitedly. What should we watch? Sarah asks. How about an animated film? Their mother suggests. They all agree and settle down in the living room. They watch a fun movie that makes them laugh. After the movie, it's time for Emily to go to bed. Come on, Emily. Time to get ready for bed. Their mother says. Okay. Emily says, yawning. Good night, everyone, she says. Good night, Emily, they reply. Sarah decides to read a bit more before going to bed. She returns to her room and continues reading The Secret Garden. The story is captivating, and she loses track of time. She looks at the clock. Oh, it's already 10 p.m., she says. She closes the book and gets ready for bed. She brushes her teeth and changes into her pajamas. Before turning off the light, she thinks about the day. Today was a good day, she says to herself. I'm glad I went to the library. She sets her alarm for the next morning and turns off the light. As she lies in bed, she thinks about the poetry reading on Saturday. I'm looking forward to it, she thinks. She closes her eyes and drifts off to sleep. The next day, Sarah wakes up feeling refreshed. It's another beautiful day. She goes downstairs to find her mother making breakfast. Good morning, Mom, she says. Good morning, Sarah. Did you sleep well? Her mother asks. Yes, I did, Sarah replies. Would you like some eggs and toast? Her mother offers. Yes, please, Sarah says. Emily comes into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. Good morning, she says sleepily. Good morning, Emily, Sarah says. They sit together and enjoy their breakfast. After eating, Sarah helps clean up. What are your plans for today? Her mother asks. I might go for a walk and then read some more, Sarah says. That sounds nice, her mother replies. Sarah decides to take a walk around the neighborhood. She enjoys the fresh air and the sounds of nature. She thinks about how lucky she is to live in such a peaceful town. When she returns home, she finds Emily in the backyard, playing with their cat, Whiskers. Hi, Sarah, Emily calls out. Do you want to play with us? Sure, Sarah says. They spend some time playing with the cat, throwing a ball for him to chase. Whiskers is so funny, Emily says, laughing. He is, Sarah agrees. After playing, they go back inside. Sarah decides to bake some cookies. Mom, can I make chocolate chip cookies? She asks. Of course. Do you need any help? Her mother asks. I think I can manage, Sarah says. She gathers the ingredients. Flour, sugar, butter, eggs, chocolate chips, baking soda, and vanilla extract. She mixes the ingredients together, following the recipe carefully. Emily watches her. Can I help? Emily asks. Sure. You can help me scoop the dough onto the baking sheet, Sarah says. They work together, placing spoonful of dough onto the sheet. Sarah preheats the oven and then puts the cookies in to bake. Now we wait, she says. The house soon fills with the delicious smell of baking cookies. After about 15 minutes, the cookies are ready. Sarah takes them out of the oven and lets them cool. Can we try one now? Emily asks impatiently. Careful, they're hot, Sarah warns. They each take a cookie and bite into it. Yum! These are so good, Emily says. Glad you like them, Sarah says with a smile. They offer cookies to their parents, who also enjoy them. These are excellent, their father says. Thank you, Sarah replies. They spend the rest of the day relaxing and enjoying each other's company. On Saturday, the day of poetry reading arrives. Are we still going to the library today? Sarah asks at breakfast. Yes, we are, her father replies. The event starts at 2 p.m., right? That's correct, Sarah says. They get ready and leave the house after lunch. They arrive at the library, and the event room is set up with chairs and a small stage. People are mingling and chatting. Mrs. Green sees them and waves. Hello, Sarah. I'm glad you could make it, she says. Hello, Mrs. Green. This is my family, Sarah says, introducing them. It's nice to meet you all, Mrs. Green says. They find seats near the front. The event begins, and several poets read their work. Some poems are happy, some are sad, and others are funny. Sarah listens attentively, enjoying the different styles and voices. Emily seems interested too. After the readings, there's a chance to meet the poets. Sarah talks to one of them, a young woman named Lisa. "I really enjoyed your poems," Sarah says. "Thank you so much," Lisa replies. "I'm glad you liked them." They chat for a while about writing and books. Before leaving, Sarah thanks Mrs. Green for organizing the event. "You're very welcome," Mrs. Green says. "I'm happy you enjoyed it." On the way home, the family talks about their favorite poems from the event. "I liked the one about the seasons," Emily says. "Me too," Sarah agrees. "It was a lovely afternoon," their mother says. Back at home, Sarah feels inspired. She decides to try writing her own poem. She sits at her desk and thinks for a moment. She begins to write about the beauty of nature and the joy of simple moments. When she's finished, she reads it aloud to herself. It's a start, she thinks. She keeps the poem in her notebook, planning to write more in the future. As the day comes to an end, Sarah reflects on the past few days. Visiting the library brought so many good experiences, she thinks. I'm grateful for my family and the time we spend together. She feels happy and content. Maybe I'll become a writer someday, she thinks with a smile. She gets ready for bed, looking forward to what tomorrow will bring.